Oh my God, people, today is a very sad day. My Audi RS6 is going back to Audi. It's the end of the 6-month loan and I'm gutted. So in this video, I'm going to be talking you through all the things that I've really enjoyed about this car over the 6 months and some of the things that have really annoyed me about it over the 6 months. Another thing I'm going to do is try and set a new standing quarter mile time with it. So we've used this car in lots of drag races and the best time it's done is in 11.3 seconds over the quarter mile. But today we're at our test track where it seems to be a little bit grippier, and cars that I've tested here over the quarter mile seem to be just a touch quicker than in the drag races. So we're going to see if I can set a new record time for the RS6 before it goes back. Oh yeah, it's a very sad day. Let's just get on with the video.
Buying a new car? Then head to CarWow and my team will help you find your next car at a fair price. CarWow, your one-stop car buying comparison site.
The way this video is going to work is that I'm going to tell you something I really like about this car, and then I'm just going to ruin everything by then start moaning about something that's related to the thing I like that I don't actually like about it. Yes, I'm a miserable person from the Midlands, and that's the way we are. So let me start off with the paint scheme, because I love this green paint. It is amazing and it works really well with the brown interior. Contrasts are lovely. Regardless of what anyone says, I think it's awesome, and I've grown to appreciate it even more than when I first spec'd it. In fact, I like it so much I got some driving gloves from Dents to match the interior. The thing that I find annoying is this paint scheme. It's not really available on the RS6, so you have to go through the Audi special paint scheme, which means it's a £3,000 extra. Yet on the less expensive RS4, this Sonoma Green as it's called, only costs you an extra £675.
What?
That's just bizarre. I mean, this car in total costs £117,000. It's insane, whereas the RS4 is a lot less expensive. In fact, what I've done is configured an RS4. Click on that pop-up banner up there, I'll follow the link below the video. You can check out the saving and the price you actually pay for an RS4 if you buy them through CarWow. One of the great things about this new RS6 is that it handles so much better and is so much more fun and playful than previous RS6s when you get it on a twisty road, and you can turn the stability control all the way off, and because you've got that Quattro Sports differential on the rear, it can send power to the rear wheel with the most grip, which helps when driving out of corners. You can even hoon it a little bit. I'll try and demonstrate now. Like that, see? I mean, it will like cane up its tyres, which is a bit bonkers in something this big, like. But because of the way Quattro is set up, you can't fully disengage the front axle like you can in a BMW M5 or an E63, so you can't do big proper control drifts. Not that you ever really need to, but I'm just saying you can't. Now if you want to see me doing big drifts in an M5, then click on the pop-up banner up there to go watch that video. I've really loved the interior design of this car. The quality of the materials is exceptional. The seats are comfortable. Everything's laid out nicely. It's easy to use. I was a bit worried that I might get a creak or a rattle from behind this dash because it's made of hard plastics, and I had an A7 on loan which had a rattle. I've also had a couple of people contact me saying that they have an A6 with a bit of a rattle behind the dash, but no problems here at all on this particular car. But there has been a weird annoying noise on it that I've never been fully able to isolate, and it's been coming from like the rear corner. I don't know whether it's near the shock absorber tower or something like that, but it's a weird like kind of like a trapped monkey that's having a very low level conversation. Maybe that's what it is. There's like a chimpanzee somewhere in the back there. But anyway, I don't know what it is. It's when you go over a bump, it makes that noise. It's not been bad enough for me to take it back to Audi to try and get it fixed, but it's always just been there, occasionally just piping up. Weird. I really love the look of the 22-inch alloy wheels that you get on this car. Make it look totally badass. But you might think they bring two problems. The first would be rubbish ride quality, but it's not true. This car actually goes over bumps really, really well. It's very comfy. The other thing you might imagine is that these would be so easy to curb. Yet in 6 months, I haven't curbed a single wheel, which is quite unusual for me. Regularly after driving to a car park, which has a very narrow barrier and there's kind of width restrictors, which is it's very scary, but because I've got all-round cameras, I haven't managed to scuff the wheels. Now, the other day I did actually go up the curb and drop back down, and I was convinced I'd like damaged the alloy wheel, but because the tyre actually sits a little bit proud, it sort of acts as a little guard, so I got away with it. There is one problem though with such big alloy wheels, and that's you need big tyres and they're super expensive. I got a puncture in a rear tyre. They're 300 quid to replace a tyre for the rear corner, and that's on a budget tyre site as well. One of the options you can fit to this car is the Tour Pack, and that includes adaptive cruise control, so it'll do that thing where it'll use radar to keep you a safe distance from the car in front and auto steer to keep you in lane. Now, on certain models like a Toyota Yaris for instance, that setup is standard, but you do have to pay quite a lot to get it fitted to this Audi, which seems like a bit of a rip-off on a car that costs, you know, £100,000. What's really annoying though is that you can't get massage seats, and really on a car such as this, at this price point, you probably might want to spec, or at least have the option to spec massage seats. And it's been a bit annoying that I've done loads of miles in this, and the previous car that I had, a Mercedes-AMG G63, that had massage seats, and I always had them on. In this, I've missed not having them. Now, if you want to see my full in-depth video review of what my time was like with the Mercedes G63, then click on the pop-out banner up there to go watch my video on that car. I'd like to give you some insight on what this car's been like to give people a lift, but because of COVID, I haven't really given anyone a lift in this car. I'm sure they'd be happy in the back because there's loads of room. The only things they might complain about is the fact that these sports seats do block your view a little bit when you're looking forward. And it's a bit of a shame that the panoramic roof isn't full length glass. You have to have this extra bit here, which I assume is for bracing, but who knows? COVID. No one's been in the back really. There we go. As standard, the Audi RS6 comes with air suspension, but if you have this car, which is the range-topping Vorsprung, which gets all the bells and whistles, you then get the upgraded Audi Sport suspension, which switches out the air springs for normal coil springs, as well as adaptive dampers. So you can still change the stiffness of the ride, but with core springs, you just get a slightly better dynamic capability through the bends, which is great if you live out in the country and regularly go for a down a twisty road. But if, like me, you live in the city, then air suspension is actually preferable because you get that lovely soft floaty ride and it just adds to the air of luxury. Annoyingly, you can't mix and match the suspension systems. So if you have the range-topping Vorsprung, you can't then have the air suspension. Reason is that for WLTP regulations, Audi has had to basically bundle up lots of its options together into packs so that it can actually get the CO2 ratings for the car and blah, 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 blah. As a result, there's less ability to tailor your car, your latest Audi, than you could in the past. And that's just a little bit annoying as far as I'm concerned. I love this engine. It's an absolute beast. 4 litre twin turbo V8 with 600 horsepower and 800 newton meters of torque. To try and maximise the economy, Audi has fitted it with cylinder deactivation technology, so when you're just cruising along, it'll run on 4 instead of the full 8 cylinders. It also has a system which works with the satellite navigation, so the car knows when you're going downhill or approaching a junction, and it tells you to lift off the accelerator. And it does that by showing a little sign on the dash, but also by actually vibrating the accelerator pedal itself. And it works for me, I lift off. The only thing is, it doesn't seem to work so well in improving the fuel economy, because during the 6 months I've had this car, I've only averaged 19 miles to the gallon, which isn't very good. Thankfully, this car has a huge fuel tank. It's like over 70 litres. Despite that, the other day, I still almost ran out of fuel. Ended up playing Russian roulette with the remaining range, and then it went to 0 miles remaining and 0 fuel in the tank, and refuel immediately. And I just about crawled onto the petrol station forecourt. It was a little bit like squeaky bum time. Some parts of this car are really well thought out. Now, I know you have the climate controls through a touchscreen down here, but it's not as bad as some other climate control systems which are operated through touchscreens, because when you press, it does click and vibrate like your mobile phone. But the best bit is that you can actually rest your hand, the heel of your hand, on the gear selector and then operate it quite easily when you're driving. But then there's some other bits which aren't so well thought out, and one of the biggest problems for me, the cup holders. So they just grip a cup a little bit too tightly. So let's say you've got a coffee, it's full, you're driving along, you want a quick sip. You have to be very careful how you extract it, because it holds on really tightly until the last moment when it suddenly releases. And look at this, I'll do it again. You'll see how you can just fire coffee everywhere. Look, see? I've done it a few times, believe me, then you end up having to clean up the interior. Another thing that's a bit annoying is this. So I've got a large mobile phone. When you plug it into the charging cable like that, the actual area for it under there isn't quite large enough, so you end up sort of like bending the cable a bit and stressing the cable, and eventually if you drive along with that shut down, it damages the cable. I've been through so many cables because of this car. The brakes on this car are really good, so they're quite smooth, progressive, they're not grabby when you're just driving around town, yet they are super powerful. And what I'm going to do now is show you just how powerful they are by braking from 70 miles an hour with an emergency stop. See how short a distance I can stop in. Bearing in mind this car weighs over 2 tons. Let's see what it'll do. Full emergency stop, come on! Ugh. Right, let's see what the specialist timing gear does say. So it stopped from 70 miles an hour in 45 meters, which actually is all right for a big heavy car like this. Now, if you do regular heavy braking, such as, I don't know, you live on a mountain canyon road or you go on track regularly, you might want the carbon ceramic brakes. Though actually I say you might want, you probably won't really, because if you want the carbon ceramic brakes on this car, they will cost you £9,200. That is insane. That is just too much money. I mean, Audi's terrible anyway for the price of its options. For instance, even if you just want to paint your brake calipers red, just a bit of paint, 500 quid, £500. This car has loads of safety tech to prevent you having an accident, such as blind spot monitoring. So if there's a car in your blind spot and you go to change lane, this will flicker here, flashes a light up, and there's another light there to warn you. There is a problem though with the actual design of this door mirror housing, because the way it extends there, it actually reflects ever so slightly in the mirror itself, and so when you're driving at night and you've got street lamps and headlights from other cars, you get like a little flickering as the light bounces off there into that part of the mirror, and so you think there's another car just there right next to you, so you're constantly doing a double take like that, and you should really be just concentrating on driving forward. One of the great things for me about this car is just how easy it is to live with and drive every day. It's super comfy. I've got the car set up so it's pretty much got the drive system in balance, because I don't want it holding too high a gear unnecessarily. After all, you don't really need to, because this engine has so much torque that when you put your foot down it just flies anyhow. I have the engine sound in pronounce, so it's nice and noisy because I want to enjoy that V8. I have the steering in comfort because I want it nice and light. Yeah, that's how I like it. Oh, I do have the differential in dynamic because I want it to still like have that sporty feel when you're coming out of bends, really driving from the rear. And I have that set up in this RS mode button as RS1, so I can just press this button once and it sets up those modes immediately for me exactly as I want it, and that's generally how I drive around. And it is easy to drive around. It is a big car, but because you've got rear wheel steering as standard, it's actually quite manoeuvrable. It's all great, it's super easy to live with. Problem is though, that I end up just driving this around like I would a normal A6. I just mainly coast, just doing the speed limit because it's relaxing. You just don't really bother to thrash it that much. So most of the time, I may as well just be in a blooming Audi A6 2-litre diesel. Really? It's a bit ridiculous that I have this car with all this potential and I hardly use it. Then sometimes I come to overtake someone and I put my foot down and like, boom, off we goes. Oh yes, it's the RS6. It is the RS6, but I just don't use it in a way that is all that RS6 most of the time. Seems like a bit of a waste. The technology you get in this car is really very good. So the infotainment system is easy to use. You've got high definition responsive screens. There's also, of course, Audi's digital driver's display, which is lovely, very clear, and of course you can get this widescreen mapping with it. The only problem is that I don't use any of the inbuilt systems. I just plug in my phone and then use Android Auto. Reason is I prefer the Google Maps with the actual traffic that you get with Google. I've got my Spotify then, and then I can make the most of the Bang & Olufsen stereo, listening to exactly what I want, and I can control it with voice commands that do actually understand exactly what I'm saying, because Google's voice commands are way better than the built-in ones you get with Audi. The problem with this though is that when you're using Android Auto, it isn't replicated there into the digital driver's display, which is annoying. Yes, you can look at different tracks that you're listening to on Spotify and skip them, but you can't use the mapping or the sat-nav. It'll only use Audi's own inbuilt sat-nav system. So it's a shame, it's gone to waste then. And I just won't use Audi's system because I just think the Google one is better. Sorry Audi, it's true. You need to fix that. Just get them synced up, please. Can't be that hard, right? When you're driving along and you've got the car in sports mode and you accelerate, this thing sounds incredible. The trouble is you tell your friends about that and so they want to hear it, but of course they can't come in the car with you because of COVID, so all they get to hear is what it's like when it's stationary. And when you go on tick over, it has promise. Listen, a rumble. Sounds like it's going to be pretty raucous. And then you rev it, because they want to hear it, revving, and this is what it sounds like. Because Audi won't let you rev its car stationary. They have a soft limiter, don't they? And then no one's impressed by that, are they? Not really. That doesn't sound like it's worth over £100,000. Shame. I love big, powerful estate cars because they are practical and fast. So this car's boot has a capacity of 565 litres, and in layman's terms that means that you can fit 9 airplane size carry-on luggage cases here in the boot. Though to be fair, with the Mercedes-AMG E63 estate you can actually fit 10 of those luggage cases because its boot capacity is 640 litres. Also in the Mercedes, when you fold down the rear seats, you can do it electrically by pressing a button. Here in this Audi you actually have to pull something. Look, ow, I'm pulling my poor finger. Oh, actually I've hurt my finger a little bit. Then you have 1680 litres, but the Mercedes with the seats folded down, you have 1820 litres. Another benefit of the Mercedes is that if you don't want an estate car, then you don't have to have one. You can get it as a saloon, whereas this, it's an estate only. Oh well, I do like this feature though, look. So imagine that you just load the boot and you leave your keys in there. Don't worry, you can't actually lock them in because it won't shut the boot fully. Watch this. So you think it's going to lock? And then it just reopens. It's a good idea, that. This is an expensive car. You're paying for features like that. If you fancy a high performance estate car that's way cheaper than this, I've put a link to one there. Got it configured through carwow with a good saving as well. Click that link, you'll find out what that car is. It does a very similar job for a lot less cash. I think the design of this car is incredible. Audi's designers have done a fantastic job. It really is noticeably more aggressive looking than the standard A6 on which it's based, with its wider haunches and all the extra styling details. I adore it. Now there are a few people that think that the previous generation RS6 was a better looking car because it's more of a sleeper. I completely disagree. One of the reasons why I would have this over an M5 or an E63 is because I think it looks better. Lewis, who's behind the camera, actually prefers the look of a Porsche Panamera, don't you, Lewis?
Yeah, I do.
He's wrong. He's totally wrong. This is a much better looking car, and I'm the guy who's the arbiter because I'm the motoring journalist. Anyway, yeah, love the look of this car. In fact, whenever I post something about it on my Instagram, it goes big. People love this car. So the last one I did had like 38,000 likes and over 1,000 comments. Yeah, it does really well. I'll miss having this car to post about on my Instagram. And if you want to just follow me on Instagram, yeah, it's at Matt Watson Cars. One of the problems with this car though is that it does look overtly sporty, and so as a result people just constantly want to race you. I always have boy racers up my arse bothering me going, come on, let's see how fast that car is. Often people don't like to let you out at junctions either because you look like you've got a little bit too much money, and so they're a bit jealous. That's the downside of a car that looks like this. Finally then, I'm going to launch this car, see what it'll do 0 to 60 and over the standing quarter mile, and seeing as I'm going to do some serious driving, I better get my serious driving gloves back on. The best quarter mile time I've had out of an RS6, which is 11.3 seconds. Let's do it. Come on, build up boost. There we go, let's go. That shot off good. Felt good. 0 to 60, 3.03 seconds. What's going to be the quarter mile? Come on, can you beat 11.3? This is the quick track. No. Bang on, 11.3. Match the best time ever in the RS6. Oh, guess I'll take that.
A few moments later.
I decided that I'm going to try and give it another go. Launch control, here we go. Full boost. Come on. Oh, 3.01, we might do it. Come on. Get the 11.2s. Come on. 11.27. Yes, we have a result, people. We have a result. 11.27. 11.87. Well done. Beat my best ever time. Now, it's still not as quick over the quarter mile as an E63S or a BMW M5 competition. It's just not quite. When you launch those cars correctly, they can do a little bit quicker. We're talking a tenth or two of a second. In fact, if you want to see a drag race between the RS6 and those cars, put a link just up there, click on that, you can go check that out right now. So then, what's my final verdict on the Audi RS6? Should you avoid it? Should you consider it? Should you shortlist it? Or should you just go right ahead and buy it? Well, do you know what? My verdict is exactly the same as when I first test drove this car over a year ago on its official launch in California, America. It is go right ahead and buy it. In fact, by spending 6 months with the car, I've actually loved it and appreciated it even more. It really fits my lifestyle extremely well. And if I didn't do this job and I had the means, I would definitely buy an RS6 as my daily driver. It's got to go back to Audi. But my sadness is short-lived because I'm getting a new daily driver and it's going to be green just like this one, but a different car. And if you want to know what that car is, I'm going to flash up a very quick clip of it. And if you want to see what it is, you've got to hit the pause button at the right time. Anyway, here's the clip. Do you get what it is? Yeah, if you did, you're probably telling everyone else in the comments. Please don't do that. Just spoil the surprise. If you didn't get it, then you have to wait until I do my hello video on that car soon. Now, this car is actually going back to Audi at the end of the week, and this is my very last time of filming with it. However, I have filmed quite a lot of videos with it already, which are still to be edited out, which will come out after this video. So you may still see this car on this channel a few good times yet. Hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a like and leave a comment, even a rude one, because it all helps in the algorithm. Now, if you want to watch some more videos featuring this fine car, click on those windows there. And whatever you do though, do not click on that box there. Don't do that. It's really bad if you do. Don't do that.
There at the first sight, I never believed. When I saw you for the first time, I changed my mind. Your eyes and your smile are a fantasy. I need